Now, as soon as this thing comes on up here and gets ready to rock and roll, we will be going. So just hang. There we go. All right. Got the sound turned off. There we go. Good. Now, because there are so many laptop appliances now deployed, and because of miniaturization in general, you all are going to find as A plus technicians, you may be supporting lots, I mean, lots of portable devices, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, the phablet, the new hybrid device. So let's take a peek now and see generally how laptops are, for the most part, configured. Laptop hardware, of course, is much smaller by design. The miniaturization of computing in general has really made lots of changes in the way that people interact with systems in general. The form factors and the components that are made up in with laptop systems have changed radically over even over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Everything is compressed. Everything is compact. We're seeing now too that lots of your laptop appliances now are being made from recyclable materials, plastics, not like the old first couple of generations of laptops that were metal case, heavy devices there. Um, there is also a convergence, lots of different functions that used to be replaceable parts. They called them field replaceable units. Um, are not replaceable in the laptops anymore. And you would think that looking at the structure and the manufacture of these things now, that for the most part, they're manufacturing throwaway appliances. And in many cases, they truly are. Lots of functionality now that is hardwired right onto the die of the motherboard and not just laptops, mobile phones, tablets as well. So if some function goes wrong, it's just more financially feasible to replace the device than it is to attempt to repair it. Now, laptops, for the most part, follow these general design specs. You have your full integrated keyboard, which is, located in a specific area of the laptop computer system. There is a well, I didn't want to do that. Let me pull that back out. Um, there is the mouse unit is touchpad control unit built into the system as well, and that's where these components here are all pretty standardized if you look at it on the device itself. Your keyboard integrated here, um, and for most part, these are in a lot of the laptops. It's just like a rubber covering, if you will, over the actual keyboard connect components that are down underneath that. It's not individual keys that are replaceable anymore. You have like right here is your touchpad control. Usually down at the bottom of the touchpad control, you'll have the left and the right buttons that are located down there as well. And the touchpad control can be configured, of course, for a single tap, double tap, tap and drag, that kind of thing. The same kind of functionality we would have with the mouse. Okay. Now, my preference is I still use my remote mouse, my wireless mouse. I don't drive the computer system with that touchpad unless I just have to. Okay. Some situations, if I'm just traveling, I pull the laptop out, I'll manipulate it like that. And I told you guys as well, my screen on the new laptop is a touch screen. So, if I am in an enclosed space and can't set up all my peripherals, then I'll use those functions to actually manipulate it. We also find here that on the side panel, and this is usually true of all around the sides of the computer, backside and side edge over here, we have your I/O ports, your Bluetooth ports, your expansion ports, I've even seen some laptops like mine has an HDMI port that I can use to hook up an external monitor with the system. And so it's all pretty common there as far as the configuration of these devices. They are becoming very, very thin, very slimline systems now. The new one that I have here didn't come with an with a built-in DVD or Blu-ray drive. I had to go external to that, but it hooks up real nice with a USB cable, USB-C cabling, very high speed. The USB cabling also, not only does it hook it up to the computer, it also supplies the power right down that same cable as well. So it's a very compact, portable type of device. Now, unlike the chassis system that we looked at on Monday, where you have the large power supply that's mounted up in the backside of the computer, power supply on your laptop is these kind of guys, your AC adapter. Okay. It is it's designed to supply power to the unit, but also to charge the battery. And almost all of your systems, if you go on the back side over here on of the unit, that's where the battery typically slips underneath there. And it's removable, it's replaceable. These guys here are, just used for that DC to AC adapter for the power supply. There's a good example of the battery. Main thing about the batteries, they do have a lifetime. Now, most of the newer battery technologies that are using in these things, the battery will last as long as the PC will be a viable unit that you can use. Sometimes, poor manufacturing process, or maybe just got a bad battery. You have to replace these things. Read the instructions. Make absolutely certain, especially, and I speak from experience, if you're ordering a replacement battery off of Amazon, make certain you have the proper wattage, the proper impedance, the proper plugs. I mean, everything has got to be absolutely identical, or it's not going to work. Same thing with the adapter. Make certain you're getting the proper voltage adapter with the proper plug on the end of it for your particular PC. So again, you have got to read the instructions on the original PC device itself and make certain that everything across the board there is compatible. Okay. The thing about charging the battery, all of my systems stay powered up 24/7. Okay. Now I reboot those on a very regular basis to sort of clean the systems out. But I have always been of the mind, and I've not found any engineers that can actually argue this point as of yet, anyway. Microelectronics operate much more optimally and efficiently if they have a constant regulated voltage supplied to them. And think about it along the lines of incandescent light bulbs. The old incandescent light bulbs and even the new LEDs, if they're constantly turned on and off, on and off, on and off, they don't come near giving you the lifetime that the instructions on the box where you bought it tell you you'll get. But it's because the circuitry, in addition to the filament in the light bulb, is constantly being heated and cooled and heated and cooled and heated and cooled. Over a period of time, they become brittle. So you don't get the lifetime by that constant supply power, take it away, supply it, take it away. Now, that's just me. I'm not saying that that's the way that everybody should do it, but I've had loads of success with systems that have lasted me well beyond their expected lifetime by just keeping them powered up on a regular basis. Now, we looked at the RAM cards the other day. On the laptops, the RAM cards usually fall into one or the other of the name. They call it SODIMMs, small outline dual inline memory modules, and some of them called micro DIMMs. Same concept. They're smaller cards physically, and they usually sit in a chassis that anchors them parallel to the motherboard. I was telling you guys the other day, most of the motherboards will have this cantilever approach. The chassis that the RAM card plugs into will raise up at about a 45-degree angle, making it much simpler and easier for you to insert and take out the card, and then it just carefully lowers down to where it's parallel to the motherboard. Most of your the new PCs anyway are using the solid state drives as well as these types of chip-based RAM cards. The small outline dual inline memory modules, the SODIMMs here, Almost all of those are the what we talked about at the first of the week, the error correcting code, the ECC modules. So they've got the additional chip on one side of the card, which contains that error correcting code there built into it. So very efficient, very fast, and quite expensive, as a matter of fact. A 2 gig RAM card on a PC will cost significantly more than a 2 gig card on a chassis, a desk side type of computer system. All of the expansion, the adapter cards on the PCs are along the lines of that same, the look very similar to these guys here, or to the chip-based expansion cards here. That is typically true of your wireless circuitry inside the system. They do have the peripheral connect interface PCI extended cards, but they're scaled down. They're very, very small. And the majority of those utilize either the mobile SATA scaled down serial advanced technology architecture, or the other composite units called M.2, which is the interface type. Looks and acts and feels very similar to the SATA type connectors. It has the data connection and then the power connection as well. But most of those, as I say, are small cards, chip-based cards that sit in the chassis and plug in parallel to the motherboard. They just sort of hover above it in their particular connector units. And any kind of adapter cards, the modem adapter, your network interface card, the solid state disk drives, SSDs, almost all of those now are chip based, not hard disk drive, magnetic medium, no moving parts, that kind of thing. It makes the laptop itself much more stable. Whereas an old desktop chassis machine, if it was knocked off a desk or knocked over, it could very well damage the hard disk drive because it caused the read-write heads to settle in and physically scratch the surface of the disk. Well, these things, there's no moving parts. It's all chip-based IC, integrated circuitry kind of things. So, lots of people now are, and I did on my old laptop here that I'm using for the podcast recording here. I took the old hard disk drive out of that and replaced it with a 2 terabyte solid state drive. Much more efficient, it's screaming fast, larger capacity, and so on. So we're seeing a lot of that. This would be a very thin, slimline hard disk drive. You used to see these guys on some of your older systems, but the solid state drive counterpart to this, only about half the size. Physically half the size, I'm talking about the form factor. So we're seeing lots of, especially large enterprises, beginning to completely replace, swap out all of this hard disk drive technology and replacing it with the solid state drives here. Very, very efficient, very effective, very fast. And the price on those things have just taken a nosedive radically over the past 5 years or so. One thing about the PCs, and I found, and you don't see it as much nowadays on the newer models as we did some of the older models. If I were going to be, for instance, doing any work or replacing keys or some of the electrical components that manage the keyboard, you just about had to disassemble the whole thing. And I'll tell you a trick on some of these newer devices here that my dear old son-in-law told me. I am never without a pocket full of guitar picks. Okay. Now, I'm not a guitar player. I play at the guitar, but you just never know when you may be in the company of old family friends and other assorted misfits, and somebody pulls out a guitar. Well, the old guitar pick here has another type of, see if I can give you a good shot of that bad boy there. Yep. It has another very cool function that you can do. Your mobile phones, the tablet devices, laptop devices, many of them now, if you want to separate the casing, you'll have a top cover, a bottom cover, and on the mobile phone, same thing, top cover, bottom cover. But if you look at the mobile phone and the tablet device itself, there aren't any screws that are holding it all together. it is sort of heat sealed together. So if you're going to be opening that case up, you got to have very specialized tool sets. That little bad boy right there, the guitar pick, is an excellent means of allowing you to first, I've done work on a couple of mobile phones, and what I do is take a hair dryer and basically warm up the outer surface of it, and then find my guitar pick, get in between those guys, and go very carefully around the edges of it, and the case pops apart. So, just giving it the old musician guitar pick strategy there allows me to pull the casing together without damaging any of the components. Now, on the laptop device, now, if I want to get to any of the major field replaceable components in this laptop, I just turned it upside down and I've got 4 different access ports on the bottom of it. A couple of screws on each one of those. There they go. Now, if I were going to need to replace the keyboard here, I would indeed have to separate because the keyboard sits down under the rubber unit here that's the actual keys on top of it. And that's one thing I've got to do on one of my other laptops, the old laptop I had. I think it was actually the wife's laptop, but some of the keys now are sticking. And I suspect that there's been over the years, some liquid has been, tea, Coca-Cola, whatever, has been spilled down in that keyboard because they still work, but they stick sometimes. So I'm going to have to open that case up and clean all the contacts on that keyboard there. But separating the case is one way to do it according to the device. And then, like my disk drive on the bottom of this PC, 3 screws, remove the access port. There's the disk drive. Took the old one out, put the new one in. And this is on my other laptop, the same thing. Chip space, the random access card chips, another access port. The NIC, the network adapter, another access port. And then there's some USB plug controller components in there that I can get to with one of the other access ports. So it's all very, very easily accessible now on the newer systems. I had to replace or chose to replace the 2 speakers in one of my old laptops, and you had to disassemble the whole blasted thing just to get to the components where those speakers were mounted and plugged into the motherboard. So you just got to be cautious. You got to take it very, very slowly. Also in these systems now we're seeing, and I saw this on the wife's and my iPads that we have. They got fingerprint readers, and it's the power button, which is also the fingerprint reader on that. Some of the new laptop systems include that biometric kind of functionality as well. All the mobile phones, laptops, tablets, they all have superb multimedia components. The video cameras that are even the ones that are built right into the monitor itself. The audio, the speaker systems, really, really good high quality stuff. And even now on, either on-screen fingerprint readers or fingerprint reader that's associated with the power button, like on the tablet devices as well. Now, when you get into a situation of getting ready to troubleshoot these mobile appliances, first you have to make certain that you have the right tool suites in order to work on these things. Now, in our mobile phones, there are very few field replaceable units, they call them FRUs, field replaceable components inside of a mobile phone that aren't already hardwired onto the die of the motherboard nowadays. Now, in some cases, the manufacturers, they will allow you to, for instance, replace the battery inside of the mobile phone as a standalone component. You'll be able to replace some of the screen itself, the circuitry for the screen. You will be able to replace some of the internal storage appliances. Most of those are SD cards anyway, and even more so, you find the slots on the side of the mobile phone where you can slide in a new SD card for additional storage as well. Other than that, most all of the rest of the circuitry involved in these things is, for the most part, integrated circuitry right on the die of the motherboard. So that's another situation to where it doesn't make financial sense to try to repair the thing as opposed to replace all, just doing a replace on the unit. And even some of the materials that these things are manufactured with now, it gives you the thought anyway that they're just produce them as throwaway type of items. Okay. Now, a couple of things on your mobile phones you really need to pay attention to. And we don't see this nearly as much on the newer systems as we did on some of the older, and it's more the older battery technology that was used. They would develop a memory, and that memory would show that the battery was fully charged when it was only 10% charged. And it was just a matter of the way that the user was charging these things, leaving them plugged up, and they didn't have the auto charge shut down, that kind of thing. Um, Most of the newer battery technology has sort of negated those kind of problems that we have, but some of them still, it's still the same thing. Now, I have seen one situation as well when the battery, actually, it's a wonder the device didn't blow up, but the battery, it swelled up so big that it cracked the case of the mobile phone. And it was because the user left it sitting on the dashboard of an automobile and the sun was coming through there. And it heated it up to where the battery expanded. And again, it's a wonder it didn't blow up and blow the windshield out. So if you have the bulging battery, just pay attention to it. You've absolutely got to take the battery out. And of course, you got to make sure that you don't just throw it in the trash. You dispose of it properly. There's actually battery companies all over the world that will take those batteries in essence, recycle or destroy them for you. Also, in these devices, they're not particularly fond of overheating or liquid. And now some of the new ones I've seen, I remember going to trade shows where the new vendors would take their mobile phones and drop it in a glass of water and then call the mobile phone. Most of them are liquid resistant, but they are not waterproof. Um, so those are the kind of things that cause problems. Leaving the systems in direct sunlight for large periods of time, dropping it in the pool or the toilet. But I'll tell you one quick fix, and I saw this actually work. My daughter, we were having a party at poolside, and her mobile phone got kicked into the pool. Immediately went in, got it, grabbed it out, and of course she's freaking out because she had just gotten it. So, and a friend had told me, if you have that happen, take the mobile phone and put it into a bag of rice immediately. Drop it into a bag of rice and keep it in there overnight. Well, rice has an excellent property of absorbing, pulling water. Now, luckily, the phone, it didn't burn up any circuitry. So the water resistant part of it somewhat worked. Now, it wouldn't power on. So she was sure she'd lost it, but we kept it in a bag of rice for about 2 days, actually. And then it worked like a champ for another 6, 8 months or so. And then she replaced it. Most of the screens on these guys here is, touch capable screens. Sometimes you have to calibrate those screens, and that sort of feels like playing whack-a-mole. It draws a little circle on one part of the screen, you tap it, and here, a circle here, tap it there. There is a component, there's actually two major components in the mobile phones and the portable appliances now. There's one called a digitizer, and the digitizer is what provides the touch screen capability. It translates where you touch the screen into XY coordinates and then feeds that information to the operating system and tells it what you tapped or what you double tapped. There's also another component there's called an accelerometer, and that tells the operating system how the device is being used in 3D space. That's the kind of component you guys probably remember the Wii gaming station, the Wii handset. It had an accelerometer in there. Of course, you could use the handset as a baseball bat, tennis racket, golf club, bowling ball, whatever. And the same circuitry, the accelerometer circuitry in your mobile phones and your tablet devices tells the operating system how that device is being used in 3D space. My grandson now, who kid's 6 feet tall now, and he's still a youngster, but he used to love to play his driving games with either my mobile phone or my tablet device. Um, and you know those things you may have to calibrate those as well. I know I loaded a compass application on my mobile phone, and I had to go through a calibration process to basically orient the application to the earth. I had to hold it flat and move it in a figure 8 position, had to turn it up and then turn it this way, had to do this thing with it. And it calibrated the compass application. So now it knew what true north was and so on. So sometimes these things have to be calibrated. Sometimes it's an auto calibrate kind of function. The most of the screens on these things now are the OLED type of devices, the organic light emitting diodes. So they don't have a backlighting function. Some of them still do, and it provides, of course, the ability to you know, brighten, dim, change color configurations, things like that. But even the ones with the OLED and the QLED technology, although they don't have the backlighting requirement, they still have all that same functionality as well. These devices, of course, everybody's using them for browsing the internet, email, texting things. These guys, you know, in any network signal, whether it's Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or near field communications, they are prone to some type of interference, radio frequency interference, and in some cases, even electromagnetic interference will affect those signals. Um, the you know, and I don't know if you guys remember the very first wave of mobile phones, but first they were big old bulky, you know, honking kind of things with these large, long, flexible antenna. And then the smaller ones even had antenna. Now the antenna is still there, but it's on the inner surface of the case itself. Um, the antenna may be, you know, disconnected from the motherboard inside, or it may be all kinds of outside interference. Um, there may be issues that cause problems with connecting to the cellular network, all kinds of electrostat, I mean, electrostatic interference, radio frequency interference can cause problems with the signal. Trying to use a mobile phone in a basement, you know, where you're going through several layers of concrete, well, it just may not work. So they are prone to the same types of blockage and interference type of issues as any kind of networking appliance. Um, and big bugaboo on mobile phones, and people just don't tend to realize it until they get infected, is malware. You know, everybody's using their mobile phones now for text messaging and email services, browsing the web, things like that. And they're susceptible to malware just like any kind of computer system is. 'Cause your mobile phone runs application programs, it runs operating systems, it has a motherboard, it has storage. And of course, you guys have seen I get them. I go through my email and my text messages every morning and throw away 50, 60 spam emails a day, every day. And I'll constantly go through and mark them as spam or junk, so I never see them again. But there's 2 or 3 or 4 right behind those. Um, and there's really nothing you can do about it except change your number and keep it private and don't share it with anybody, you know. But I'm not going to do that. So I'll just keep on weeding them out on a daily basis. The people are constantly prompted to click this link, download this file, click this link, go to this website. And many of those things are malicious by nature. If you click links, download malware onto your mobile phone, it can infect that phone, it can lock you out of it, it can steal your information, it can change the access to things like your camera and your microphone and your contacts list, things like that. So these devices, just like any computer system, I run an antivirus, anti-malware program on mine. I run a virtual private network client on my mobile phone. So I'm security conscious with this guy, just like I am on any other computing system. Okay. I'm very security conscious when I hook my mobile phone up to external networks. And I'm real leery of any kind of like public networks, cafe networks, airline networks, things like that. So I always fire up my virtual private network client before attaching to any of those things, any of them. Okay. Now we might as well get used to supporting mobile appliances. They are here to stay. They are becoming more and more fluid inside of organizations, more and more used, more and more supported, and everybody has one. Okay. So we really have to do some in-depth research on the types of functions that the end users are using these things for, as well as the security oriented around those and the different types of issues that users have when they're using these things as their primary computing appliance. Okay. There's lots of information. You'll see it later on in the workbook, but already we've seen some of it inside the student guide here. That is sort of a troubleshooting guide uh, included as part of your student guide here to support, troubleshoot, and support mobile appliances. Because you're gonna, as an A+ technician, guaranteed you're going to be supporting mobile devices, no doubt about it. And when I say mobile devices, I'm talking about mobile phones, tablets, laptops, and this new hybrid appliance we call a phablet. Okay. All right, if you would be so kind, folks, navigate on down here to your 9.7 module quiz. There are what, 20 questions total there. Decrease the size of that screen just a bit there. There we go. 20 questions total. Now, I would like for you both to do this module quiz, and then I would like for you to go back and repeat the module quiz from the last lesson. Okay. I want to show you guys the effect on just that singular repetition should probably have on your scoring on that module quiz. Okay. So I want you guys to do this one. Post the scores. I want you to repeat the 8.4 module quiz, the same one we did before. Okay. Boost that score, post the scores, and then we're going, yep, that's about right. A little bit early lunch break today, but I'm going to set your timer up for an hour and a half. That will give you plenty of time to do both of these quizzes. And I'm very interested in seeing these scores posted now, so don't forget. Now, you folks that are joining us on YouTube, and Verna, I see you have jumped into the party here. Welcome. We're about to take our lunch break here. Our break for taking these module quizzes and then the lunch break. Verna, you're welcome to hang with us and pick up where we left off after the lunch break. You folks that are on YouTube, I will be again broadcasting after the lunch break this afternoon. Right now, I'm going to shut the broadcast down. And thank you all for joining us there, and jump into the class. See, participate here later on. So any questions from either of you then before I go ahead and set and pull the trigger on this timer here? All righty. Well, you guys have fun with these quiz scores here now. Have fun repeating that. And once you post those scores, go ahead and take your lunch break. And I will see you all back after the lunch break there. Again, you folks on YouTube, thank you for joining us. You can tune back in later on this afternoon, and we will have some more fun here on our CED Solutions A+ training. And Kaylee, I want you to look in your email here. I got some suggestions and some information I want to share with you there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you betcha. Here you go, folks. Have fun with this, and I'll see you guys after.